Welcome to episode 633 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hilton, and a big thank you right off the jump for those who joined me on not the Big Up Watch Along today, but the YouTube live stream that I did for the Watch Along for today's game. So I appreciated that. Well, I appreciated it for like 82 minutes of the game, and then things went a little bit sour. But we're going to talk about all of that. First, I really implore you, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the podcast apps, a good rating on the app still helps quite a bunch. People still listen to the show. I appreciate that. Or you can help me out a bunch by becoming a Patreon for as low as $3, or get something on the merch store. That goes directly to me. It helps me out as well. All right, without further ado, let's dive in. The 2-2 draw with Celta de Vigo. Here are those 5 headlines. Headline 1 is Gerard Martín ain't it. When you saw that starting lineup, of course, the big news, and we did know this for about 24 hours beforehand, maybe 4 to 8 hours, was that Gabi was going to start this match. So that was the big news off the top. Gabi starting his first match in over a year. Awesome, good stuff. Gerard Martín, because Alejandro Balde wasn't 100% fit, also got the start over Hector. And so far this season, it's been that Gerard Martín has been the starting left back when Balde has not been fit. So it really hasn't been an over Fort, one or the other thing. Martín has been the starter. And I feel at this point like I'm piling on to the guy. Unfortunately, I think this just isn't the spot for him. Even those spot starts, I think Hector, as we're going to talk about in the second half, is the better option in any circumstance here. Gerard Martín struggled in this game, and it began in the 4th minute when he picked up a yellow on a bad tackle. Celta pressed, and I think the way that Real Sociedad pressed was a little bit better than Celta pressed. They don't really have the same horses, but hey, they still forced Barcelona in what is a difficult place to play up there in Galicia. They forced him into some bad circumstances that Martín wasn't really ready for. He gave it away. Olmo, I think, at times was really good when he got into the middle and pushed forward out from the wing as an inverted midfielder, but when he was needing to defend as a left winger and help Gerard Martín out, that combination just didn't work. So there was that moment right in the first 10 minutes where those two crashed into each other, and then Kubarsi also had to save a chance that they weren't able to clear. Barca, as I said, weren't getting through that press early. Mingueza had delivered one to Aspas, and Aspas went wide with it. That could have been an early moment for Barcelona to kind of take stock of where the game was. But I feel like they did calm down around the 10th minute. They got some possession in the game, and a few of those crosses coming from the right side were letting them down. But again, after about 10 minutes, they were getting some sustained pressure in Celta's half of the field, and things were looking up at that point. Headline 2 is wasteful and then a goal. So Celta de Vigo, as I mentioned, through Aspas, were a little bit wasteful in the first 15 minutes, and so were Barca. I felt like they were giving the ball away a bit too easily, but as wasteful as they were, fortunately, they have a few forwards that know how to put the ball in the back of the net this season and can't seem to stop scoring. Rafinha being 2 on that list. Of course, number 1, Lewandowski, he also got a goal in this game. But Rafinha's goal, a lot to do for Rafinha on this one. Kounde goes over the top. Mingueza misplayed it, so this had a lot to do with Mingueza also misplaying it. I never like to see any of the Barca boys from the past struggling, so I always do root for Ilaix Moriba, Oscar Mingueza, regardless of how they left the club. If your name isn't Luis Figo, I generally do show you some grace and mercy. So in the case of Mingueza, yeah, unfortunately for him, made a mistake, but Rafinha made sure he paid for that mistake. Rafinha cuts it back onto his left foot, so it's wide open. Goalkeeper couldn't do anything about it. He was also played onside, so Mingueza was also let down a little bit by his back line. Clear as day, he was onside. And this, for the Brazilian, his 8th goal in the Liga. He already surpassed his best season, that being the 22-23 season in the Liga, with 7. That's the kind of season Rafinha is having. He has not just been a star for Barcelona, but he has been one of the top stars in world football at the club game so far this year. And he's also excelling for Brazil too. So Rafinha, it's hard to conceptualize that he is such a late bloomer as a big star, but this is his career-defining year, and it continued with a goal today. Once Barcelona scored that goal, it got a little bit like a game of tennis or ping pong, whatever, where both teams kind of had their opportunity. 19th minute, Ilaix Moriba was onside, almost found Bamba, who was really dangerous, and gave Kounde headaches for the whole game, especially that high line with his speed. It was a good block by Gerard Martín. So again, I had a negative for him, but there's a positive there. Then he also had one from distance, that being Ilaix Moriba, that Iñaki Peña had to push over. 22nd minute, good combination stuff. Olmo held it up by getting to the middle of the field. Pedri and Gabi just keep that ball moving, and Barcelona were able to have more sustained pressure in Celta's final third. 28th minute, Gerard Martín, was this the play of his career? Or was it a foul on Iago Aspas in transition? No, this isn't the other foul on Iago Aspas. This is the first foul on Iago Aspas that wasn't called. It was in transition. Bamba threads a needle. Martín never touched the ball. Barca definitely got away with one there. And then skipping ahead to the 41st minute, Lewandowski was offside, but you saw the idea. Rafinha came to the middle. The through ball came, but Lewandowski was too quick with it, getting offside. On the other side, though, I will say about this high line, I have no problem with the high line. It's high risk, high reward, and Barcelona, the high ceiling, when they play well with it, they're going to win games, and they're going to win more games than they're going to lose or drop points. But I will say, when Ronald Araujo comes back, the variation that he could add against a team like Celta de Vigo, who's going to press like this, who isn't necessarily, though, technically going to overwhelm Barcelona. So when you have that control in the midfield between Castro, Gavi, and Pedri, that actually, I think, suits Cubarsí next to Ronald Araujo. Or, hey, even Cubarsí could sit for this one, and you throw in Araujo next to Inigo Martinez, who's more naturally left-footed on that left side. And I think with that high line against a player like Bamba, shading over to help out Kounde, wouldn't be such a bad thing. And I think that will make Barcelona even better. And then the 44th minute, Olmo got a shot off to the near post. So I don't really have too much else to say about Olmo that I haven't already said. Just that when he got to the middle in this game, he was basically operating offensively as an inverted midfielder on the left side, coming in and driving forward with the ball into that space. Good things happen for Barcelona. When he was stuck on the touchline, and especially when he was asked to defend, things weren't so great. So for Olmo, kind of a mixed performance, but you'd love to have him in the middle field. And that is why we're continuing to talk about the fact that when Lamine Yamal is not in the squad, this is unfortunately a much different squad. Headline 3 is Cesar Soto Grado's rough night. There were too many times in this game, and I don't really have an opinion, right or wrong, on any of the things that he said, the cards he gave out, any of that stuff. I think people are going to have their own opinions of what he got right, what he got wrong. I think there were so many that he even probably could have gone the other way, and you can make an argument whether it was for Barcelona, against Barcelona, for Celta, against Celta. And I think the biggest one that people are going to talk about is the one that Iago Aspas was definitely talking about. And by talking, I mean screaming his head off in one of the better meltdowns that I have ever seen from a player on a sideline, an all-time outburst. He got a yellow that was completely justified, whether or not Martín actually fouled him. If you watch in slow-mo, maybe he didn't touch him enough. Maybe that's what VAR saw, but they also can't overturn that. So I'm not sure. But Aspas, all I do know in the 45th minute, absolutely went crazy. And actually, I think he maybe went down a little bit too easily. If he had caught a little bit more contact there from Martín and went down onto the field instead of kind of making a show of it, I think maybe he does get a second yellow, and that flips the game completely on its head earlier than it did when the red came for Barcelona later on. We'll get that in a second. But there were moments in that first half when it did feel like some of his decisions, referees, were helping Barcelona a little bit. Then there were moments, again, when it felt like things were going against Barcelona. Fortunately for Hansi Flick at that time and for Gerard Martín, they survived without a second yellow, and that means that Hector gets the opportunity to come on at halftime. He immediately made this team look different. His positioning on the field against that press was similar to where Balde's in. He was just able to push higher. Offensively, he's just a better option than Gerard Martinez. The defending, 50-50. There's some scary moments for him. I think Hector is a bit quicker than Gerard Martín, so he makes up space a little bit better. Positionally, he's a bit more out of position, but again, he can put out fires. And when he's on it and he steps in and he kind of holds his ground, good things happen with Hector. And I would rather have him learn with the highs and lows than go with Gerard Martín at this point. I think Hector, after this game, the lesson should be he's got to be the backup fullback when you need to rotate in that manner. Immediately, he got an interception when he came on for the second half, and I thought that gave him a lot of confidence too. The game opened up in the second as well, which I think on paper supported Barcelona. And then Celta de Vigo, they were still finding their moments. Again, Bamba, still very dangerous, still very fast. 57th minute, it was offside, but Iñaki Peña saved it anyway. I think throughout this game, Iñaki Peña, other than the 2 goals, which I don't know how much he could have done on either of those goals, he had a good day. Even when they were offside, he was getting those stops, holding his ground, and that's a confidence booster, I think, regardless of the result for Iñaki Peña on the day. Gavi was knocked to the ground around the 60th minute, gave us a little scare, but looked painful, popped right back up. Okay, all things are good. Hopefully no updates. 61st minute, here comes the second goal, though. Rafinha gets it forward, Olmo makes a run through the middle. That's what you got to do, create that space for your teammates. Lewandowski shading out to the side of the box. He receives it, and then 2 deflections later, yeah, you make your own luck. I say it a lot, but Barcelona and Lewandowski made their own luck, and Lewandowski gets clear on goal and then taking a shot right at the keeper. 15 goals now for him in the Liga. I had said if he could score 30, then Barcelona have likely scored enough goals to really put themselves in contention in the Liga. We know that the goal scoring will slow a bit. It's impossible to keep up the pace that they had, but Rafinha and Lewandowski are still in form even after the international break. Hey, keep scoring those goals, guys. And if Lewandowski hits 40, and if Rafinha hits something like 15 or 18, how have Barcelona not won La Liga if those two have scored that many goals, plus what you've gotten from everybody else, including Lamine Yamal? 66th minute, another stop by Peña. As I said, good game for him. 67th minute, Interception by Fort, another indication. I think he's just better than Martín. Soto Grado doesn't agree with Irás Moriba going down a few moments after that. And let's put a pin in that because we're going to come back to it in just a second. Now, right before Castro got his first yellow, Cesar Soto Grado disagreed with Irás Moriba, thought he went down a little too easily, asked him to get up. Again, Castro then moments later, 75th minute, gets that yellow. And then simultaneously, Gavi and Pedri come off for Fermin and De Jong. And this is the moment in the game. Well, not the most important moment, but kind of the moment where everything shifts. 77th minute, Rafinha hits the post. There was another moment because if he scores that goal and they're up 3-0, they win this game. Maybe. I don't know how Celta de Vigo scores 3. Get how they scored the 2. I was watching the same game you were, but I don't think they scored 3. It was also important that Olmo was sliding back into that 10 position where we're just not getting the best out of Pedri as the 10. We get the best out of him playing deeper, but that's a problem for Barcelona because, yes, Pedri, Gavi, De Jong, and Castro all play better deeper. One of the best combinations. And Gavi, if he's going to be fit and can start, how is he not starting? How is Pedri not starting? And how is Castro not starting? And De Jong is also on the team in the highest earner. So that is a problem for Hansi Flick to navigate. And when things don't work, you go, well, why did the other two come off? So that's what happened, where De Jong and Fermin, as they came on, and of course, Castro in the 82nd minute gets that second yellow on the pullback on Irás Moriba, which was confusing to me because I think Celta de Vigo might have already been offside anyway if he just let that play out. But instead, he pulls him back, picks up the second yellow, gets the red, and now there's a problem. So that means no Las Palmas for him next weekend. And also, no kids got to make their debuts, including Noah Darvic, who was called up to the first team bench for the first time, or Guy Fernandez, who is still waiting for his first team debut after being on the bench for a few times. So as you know, when top prospects don't make their first team debut, they stand sad. Headline 4 is Kounde's disaster. I actually want to start with a positive here because Kounde could have just shirked the media or whatever, but he didn't. He talked to the media and he was accountable to the mistake he made. I think the learning experience for him is that, yeah, maybe you don't dribble directly at your own goal and take a heavy touch like that. I think sometimes he does dribble his way into interesting situations, let's put it that way. But I think a lot of fullbacks do. I think a lot of center backs do that. And Kounde did it going back toward his own goal. He made that mistake, and he was accountable to that mistake. So I do credit him as a continuing and future leader at the club. And he's been so good. I said, when there's a player like Gerard Martín, where you haven't seen the ceiling, and he just hasn't put it enough together where I could say I can trust him. But when it comes to Kounde, he has shown us enough that we can forgive him because he's still one of the best right backs in the world. But today, so much on him because that mistake on that first goal cannot happen. The red card was one thing, but then for you to take that touch that just allows Alfon to get right in on goal, disaster by Kounde, just dribbling it towards his own goal. Alfonso Gonzalez runs onto it and puts it past Naki Peña. Yeah, that just can't happen. That's the 2-1. And now after the red card in that first goal, the momentum at home is all in Celta de Vigo's favor. And then headline 5 is blame pie. You already heard my biggest slice that I'd like to hand out for Jules Kounde. But in the 86th minute, the comeback was complete, or at least the comeback in terms of the draw. The 2-2, Hugo Alvarez against the high line. Celta de Vigo kept the pressure up. Hector Fort slid over to the open man in Hugo Alvarez, and Alvarez was calm in front of goal. He put it past Peña, and that was it. It's 2-2. And again, Celta de Vigo, they believed in themselves. They had the right mentality. They know, as they did 3 years ago, and they seem to do every time they're playing at home against Barcelona, they can come back. 3 years ago was the huge 3-0 comeback. And again, these comeback kids do it again. Celta de Vigo, in just 121 seconds, turn it around today. 89th minute, Pablo Torre and Pau Victor coming on for who at that point was a pretty tired Lewandowski. Right before he came off, there was a run he could have made at the far post, but it seemed like he was completely gassed. So he comes off along with Olmo, who was also pretty gassed, playing as a winger in that situation instead of a midfielder. And again, he did switch to the 10, but big day defending for Dani Olmo with responsibilities that he usually does not have. On the day, though, here's what I'll say about Celta de Vigo. It was basically 50-50. And I know 2-2 draw doesn't feel right because Barcelona were up 2-0 in the 82nd minute and, well, the 84th minute, and they should have won this game. Even going down to 10, they just didn't show a La Liga winning mentality. They didn't show the abilities that they had without Lamine Yamal. Well, they did, again, for 82 minutes, but every time Lamine Yamal has not been in the lineup, Barcelona this season have dropped points. Now, it also does correlate that Lamine Yamal has been missing in the last few games, so it really was flying high, and now without him, they're dropping points. But as I said against Real Sociedad, there is correlation. When you don't have a right winger or any winger attracting as much concentration from the opposition and the back line as he does, you're just going to have problems with space. And as much as the 2-0 happened, I don't want to rewrite everything about that back line and And I think Inigo Martinez and Kubarsi actually are pretty good today. But Kounde made a mistake. So when handing out blame, you do question keeping Castro on. But Pedri and Gavi also did have to come off. So you take all three of your center midfielders off at the same time. And that third midfielder, are you throwing on Pablo Torre in that situation a bit early? I think that might have been the right answer. And you keep De Jong but you keep Fermin Lopez back there. I think there were one pivot short on the day because Hansi Flick started 3 of the 4 players that should be playing in that double pivot. So was that a mistake by Hansi Flick to do that? I don't know. Again, Barcelona up 2-0 when Castro then gets the red and then Kounde makes the mistake. So I don't know how much blame I actually put on Hansi Flick for this one. So much of it does go to Kounde. I also think defensively, when they went down a man, again, Castro gets some of that blame because he's the one who committed the second yellow. You can't do that. And then I also think the intensity of that defense in the back line, I think going down the man as De Jong came on the field, basically, it wasn't too great for him. I think he also missed some of that space. On that second goal, Hector Fort kind of went flying. I think he also potentially was going to commit a foul if he had actually just gone into the man. So he winds up flying by, and it was a tidy finish. So 2-2, I mean, credit to Celta de Vigo as well. As I said, this is not a Liga winning mentality. That said, even though Real Madrid do have 2 games in hand, even if they win those 2 games, they're still down 1 point to Barcelona. So hey, if this is the valley for Barcelona and you're still leading La Liga by 1 point, even if Real Madrid win those 2 games in hand, it's still fine. Everybody, calma. Relax, Barcelona are fine, and they get to shake this off on Tuesday against Brest. And I know Brest are in the top 8 along with Barcelona in the Champions League, but they are also not in a very good run of form at the moment. So on Tuesday, that game will be played, and Brest having lost 3 of their last 4, and they only snuck by Sparta Prague 2-1 in the Champions League in the middle of those 4 matches. So I don't know. Brest, not in their best form. Barcelona, not in their best form. And Barcelona have them at home. So you can join me for the preview for Barcelona against Brest in the Champions League on the YouTube preview stream at 2:30. And then hopefully we'll be heading over to Big Up for the watch long at 3 p.m. So keep an eye out for both of those things. If there's an issue with Big Up, again, I'll let everybody know. I'll remember to put it in the stream over there. And then I'll also be putting it on YouTube as I did today to update you that the full live stream would be on YouTube if it's not on Big Up. So again, expect the YouTube live stream to start at 2:30. And if it doesn't, it starts at 3. Then you know the full live stream is on YouTube. So now that we got all that sorted out, again, I want to say, everybody, calm down. 2-2. It's still a point. Barcelona on the road, still finding something. And yeah, mistakes happen. And hopefully Barcelona just learn from it. Hopefully, very much like the rest of us, Hansi Flick is human. He lives and he learns. And as always, Forza Barca.